I need to, I got to. These dreams, I won't let them go. These faces don't faze me. I'ma get it on my own. Cause I ain't never asked for no help. I just did it by myself. Can't nobody tell me no, no, no. And they ain't gotta love you. Long as you just love you, you gon' be alright on your own. Straight up the dome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Off the Dome, that's who we are, that's what we do. Welcome to the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. As you can see, Soundman is not here tonight, so Soundboy's on his way in here. So I'm going to just stall for a couple seconds while Soundboy can, get his seat so we can do our infamous intro that we always do. First of all, shout out to Ezzy for that intro song, EZZI on Spotify. It is called Off the Dome. Go ahead and give him a listen on Spotify. Once again, that is EZZI, Ezzy on Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, your favorite sports podcast where two sports lovers sit and give their hot takes. Off the Dome.
Off the Dome.
That's what happens when your mic is muted, apparently. Off to a hot start here, boys.
Always.
But thank you for listening in on newrockradio.us. Listen to newrockradio.us at all times for your favorite and the best rock music. Local, national, classic rock, new rock, doesn't matter. It's on there. Go ahead and give newrockradio.us a listen, as well as newcountryradio.us. Last week, went to a country music concert for my favorite country music artist. It was a banger, and he's all over newcountryradio.us. So go ahead and give it a listen. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Just search up Off the Dome Sports Podcast on Facebook and YouTube, or on Twitter, _Dome Pod. While you're on there, go ahead and watch in live. If you're listening in, you can be watching us right now, live on camera on all Radio House Studios platforms. As y'all know, we stream right here out of the Radio House in Studio A. Great place to be. So go ahead and check out Radio House Studios on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. We also want to thank some sponsors tonight. Petra Restaurant and Lounge, as you can see right behind us. Petra is the best dining experience in the area, offering daily specials and a fantastic atmosphere. Not only a great dining atmosphere, but a great lounge as well. Great wine selection. And they do some of the best catering as well. So go ahead and give them a call, 985-359-8888, to set up that catering, or go ahead and check them out in the store, 1036 West Airline Highway. We also want to thank another great restaurant in the River Parish is Fatty's. Fatty's in Garyville. Byron's right down the road from him. He knows about the place. Been there a time or two, eh?
Yeah, a lot of times.
100 or 200 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've played there a couple times. They have some great live music going on sometimes. And then when they don't, they still have great food and a great atmosphere. So go ahead and check out Fatty's in Garyville on Museum Street. And then lastly, we want to thank Big Chiefs, AC and Heating in Gramercy. If you need your AC or heater fixed in this dynamic Louisiana weather, go ahead and call up Big Chiefs in Gramercy at 985-359-0419. Thank you to Big Chiefs for being a friend of not only the show, but of newrockradio.us. I don't know
weird.
what is going on with this mixer.
That was weird.
The robot button just came on. So in case y'all were wondering why I sounded like a robot, that would be why. Anyway, into the spots. First up, I mean, what more is there to talk about than the NFL playoffs, right?
I mean, yeah, it's I honestly think it's more exciting than people thought it was going to be so far. Round one had a lot of teams, hanging in there with these big dogs that weren't expecting to, and then a lot of players kind of standing out, like Brock Purdy, for one, is having an insane playoff run so far.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and start with that game in the divisional round. We saw the San Francisco 49ers take on the Dallas Cowboys in a game that, in my opinion, wasn't as exciting as I wanted it to be. But I don't know what you expected out of two of the best defenses in the league. San Fran comes home with a win, 19-12. Very weird score, to say the least. My big takeaways from the game is San Fran's defense is no joke. We saw it in the regular season, and we're seeing it in the playoffs. They hold up very well. CeeDee Lamb was really the only guy that exposed that San Fran defense. He went for 10 receptions, 117 yards. But outside of that, San Fran's defense shut down Dallas's offense. Coming off of Dallas's one of the best games of the entire season when they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round of the playoffs. What's your big takeaways from the San Fran-Dallas game?
I think it's pretty much the same thing that everyone's thinking is that, San Fran deserves to be here, so they are. Dallas did not. Especially when you come off a game where, you won by a reasonable amount. Your kicker didn't help you.
No, he really didn't help you.
Oh, yeah. He had one blocked, but, that one that got blocked was going to miss anyway.
It was going to miss anyway, so who cares?
So, as a fan of the New Orleans Saints, I'm glad to see Dallas out of the playoffs.
Everybody hates Dallas.
And I'm glad to see my pick, the 49ers, advance one more round till they inevitably lose to the Eagles.
Oh, foreshadowing, I guess. But yeah, like you said, the kicker, he had missed 4 extra points in that first game, and then he comes out, first extra point. Dallas, gets on the board with the touchdown, and then he gets his first extra point blocked. So he missed 5 straight attempts at kicking a field goal. Well, he did redeem himself. He made 2 field goals in the game. However, one of them was shorter than an extra point. He kicked a 23-yard field goal. If that thing wouldn't have went in, he would have been cut on the spot.
On the spot. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite thing about it, and I'm not trying to be political here. It's not what we do. But Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, who is he's paralyzed. He's in a wheelchair. Tweeted, "Man, I can kick better than this Dallas Cowboys kicker." Good sense of humor there. I'm not trying to, not trying to get political, not trying to say my beliefs or anything, but that was a good quip out of the man.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotta say. But getting back to football, like I was saying, that San Fran defense is no joke. They are phenomenal, and this is one of the offense's worst games we've seen, in my opinion. It's not that Brock Purdy was terrible or like CMC wasn't cutting it, nothing like that. It was just they weren't as efficient as they usually are. George Kittle was basically their only offense in this game with 5 receptions, 95 yards. Brock Purdy was held to under 220. I think he was at 214. Christian McCaffrey only had 35 yards on the ground. Elijah Mitchell added 51, but only averaged 3.6 per carry. Like, they weren't super efficient. They weren't putting up huge numbers, but they still got the win. And, at this point, it doesn't matter how you win. If you win, that's all you need to worry about. There's no, worry about the next stage thing, because this is life or death, basically, in NFL terms.
Yeah, the 49ers were my pick to make it to the Super Bowl, at the beginning of the season and at the beginning of the postseason. But coming off of that game, got to play Philly. In Philly. I know the defense for weeks now has been the top dog of the NFL. But if your offense comes out and plays like that against this Philly team, Philly's going to win.
Yeah, and we can talk about that Philadelphia game. It was no contest, basically.
Props to the Giants, sir.
Yeah, they shouldn't have made it this far. Yeah. Which, speaking on the Giants, Brian Daboll listed as a finalist for Coach of the Year, which we're going to go through all the awards.
He should be.
We're going to go through all the awards and all the finalists and everything. But, yeah, the Giants were definitely not expected to make it this far. They make it to the divisional round of the playoffs. One of the final 8 teams in the league fighting for that Super Bowl. They didn't have a good game, though. That's for sure.
No.
They were down 28-0 at halftime. Jalen Hurts only throws for 154 yards. You look at that and you're like, oh, man, did the Eagles lose? No, they won 38-7. Their defense just they played absolutely phenomenal. Forced the Giants to punt 5 times. I think 4 of them in the first half. It was embarrassing to be a Giant.
Yeah, looking at the score and watching the game, it kind of reminded me of a SEC bowl game matchup where the other team just doesn't belong playing an SEC team.
Fair enough. Alabama,
Georgia,
Kansas State,
Georgia, TCU, LSU, Purdue.
Yeah,
I can keep going.
Yeah, it's just you name an SEC team and who they played, basically.
But yeah, I really liked what I saw out of the Eagles in that game. They didn't let off the brakes, or they didn't let off the gas. That's what I meant to say.
we got it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, we got there.
Yeah, I mean, they outscored them 28-0 in the first half, and then, you're like, Giants probably, they scored some in the second half. The Eagles didn't care. No, the Eagles outscored them 10-7 in the second half. So, there's not much you can do from the Giants' perspective. Saquon still had a great day, actually. 9 carries for 61 yards. That's 6.8 per carry. That's a great day.
And kind of all season, that's been Philly's defense's weakness is a solid run game. And honestly, I think the Giants have a better run game than San Fran, who's more reliable on the West Coast offense, especially being there on the West Coast.
The West Coast offense was originated by Bill Walsh, who coached for the San Francisco 49ers. Fun fact.
Yeah, and we see a lot of, moving pieces in that backfield. But it's not really a ground and pound type of offense like we've seen the Giants become with Saquon Barkley these past few years.
I mean, the 49ers do run the ball a lot. Like, they run the ball over and over and over, but it's a different kind of run game. It's a lot motion-based. It's jet sweeps. It's reverses. It's, giving Debo some shots, Elijah Mitchell some shots, CMC some shots. They'll roll out Brock Purdy and do some, bootleg type stuff. Like, I get what you're saying. San Fran is a very run-heavy team, but it's not the same kind of running game you get as the Giants. It's a lot more lateral runs than up and down, straight vertical runs.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think it was like the 2017 LA Rams with Todd Gurley. He was getting a lot of yards, but when you watch the game, it didn't seem like they were a run-heavy team because, a player was in motion every time. It was outside handoffs instead of inside handoffs.
Yeah, that's kind of the way the 49ers play. Eagles, though, on the Eagles' offensive side of the ball, they ran the ball down the throat of the Giants. 268 total rushing yards for the Eagles. Kenneth Gainwell, a guy, I know you love him. 12 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. He had that 35-yard burst towards the end of the game where it was like, dude, you have no purpose in doing that, but you're going to do it anyway. But, yeah, he did. Miles Sanders added 90. Jalen Hurts, he had one of his worst rushing games of the year, and he still had 34 yards and a touchdown. And then Boston Scott, the Giant Killer, had a touchdown on the ground, of course.
The Giant Killer.
Well, he has, I think they said he has 16 total NFL touchdowns, and 11 of them have come against the Giants. I don't know what it is, but every time he sees that blue and white, he's like, man, I got to score today. But, yeah, the Eagles just had a very efficient, very good game on the offensive side of the ball, and then their defense really came to play. For a divisional matchup, you don't expect a blowout like this, but I guess if you see them twice a year, whoever game plans better gets the win, and boy, oh boy, does Nick Sirianni look like a genius right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he said it at the beginning of the year, 15 wins. 15
wins. They ended up getting 14, and then they technically have 15 wins right now because of the one playoff win. So, I mean, shout out to Nick Sirianni. He was also a finalist, I think, for the Coach of the Year. There were 6 finalist names. I know he was one, and Brian Daboll was one. And then I think they dwindled it down to 3. I'm going to pull all of that up after we talk about these last 2 playoff games. So we talked about the NFC. Let's move on to the AFC.
Okay.
Lott's game, I know he was paying attention to heavily because it was his team. He picked to win it all somehow. He picked the Jags, and, they fall up short of the Chiefs. But, hey, it was not without a fight.
Yeah, I think this is the most important game of this round of playoffs. Because, one, it showed that Jacksonville has a lot of fight in them. They hung on almost the whole game. I know towards the end it kind of got away from them, but even then they scored again. What is happening?
Okay.
All right, we'll leave it on that.
All right. Interesting.
Likes the Jags.
Apparently. I think Lott's controlling our mixer tonight. But, yeah, like you were saying, Jags held on to the end. They were really going into that last drive with a chance to win. If they score a touchdown, get the onside, they might win the thing. But they end up kicking a field goal. The 27-20 ended up being the final score. They kicked that onside kick, and if they recover,
oh yeah,
they could pull off some magic. Unfortunately, they don't. I would have loved to see the Jags win, not only for Lott's sake, but for an NFL sake. That'd be so cool. to see the number 1 seed go down in the divisional round to a team that had the number 1 pick. What a story that would have been. But just going into some stats of the game, Trevor Lawrence, he played better than the Chargers game in the first half, but way worse in the second half.
Yeah.
Because he didn't throw 4 picks, first of all. He threw for 217, had a touchdown and a pick. So, not the best game of his career, obviously, but for, a second-year quarterback in a new system, in a situation that nobody should be succeeding in, he had a decent day against one of the most storied franchises of the past decade in the Chiefs. Travis Etienne had a great day on the ground, 62 yards and a touchdown. And then Zay Jones picked it up in the second half once Christian Kirk went down and picked up 83 yards through the air. Mahomes got injured.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next point to why this was the most important game, is because of that injury. First half, Mahomes was coming out slinging, and the Chiefs quickly had to put on the brakes and get him some medical help. And the crazy thing is, he finished out the game. Mm-hmm. It shows a lot of heart.
High ankle sprain, which
shows a lot of heart, a lot of grit.
Yeah.
So I respect him for that. But moving on to this next game, a lot of people are unsure if he's going to play or not.
See, that's the thing is okay, so I know I'm not Patrick Mahomes. I'm not comparing myself to Patrick Mahomes, but I had a high ankle sprain. I think it was my sophomore year of high school, and I was on crutches for a week. This guy went out and had full practice today.
And he finished the game when it happened.
He finished the game right after
when
it
you
happened.
when you get injured in a game like that, you're not going to feel all of it at once. You got all that adrenaline going, especially in the playoffs of an NFL game. You got all that adrenaline going. You're not really going to feel it, but the next day is going to hurt.
Yeah, and
you're going to be sore.
Somehow was practicing right now. So, it almost seems as if he's going to go like there's nothing wrong. Of course, he's feeling it still. There's no way he doesn't feel it right now, but they probably have that guy so taped up, so full of painkillers and Toradol that he doesn't know what's going on until he probably lays down at night and he's like, my ankle doesn't feel great. Yeah, no duh, Pat. But Chiefs ended up pulling the game away anyway. And we should have known Travis Kelce was going to have the day he did. 14 receptions for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. I said it during the broadcast, and it's if he can keep playing like this for a couple more years, they said he might be the greatest tight end of all time.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think he's already up there.
I would say he's top 3 already. The only guys I'd really put ahead of him personally are Tony G and Antonio Gates.
What about you? Would put Gronk ahead of him?
Oh shoot, I forgot about Gronk. Gronk exists.
I would put Gronk ahead of him.
Okay, so I'd say Travis Kelce's probably 4 then.
Yeah, that's where I have him.
He's
too.
top 5 all time, and he's probably still got
some.
He's still probably got a couple years. If he can win another Super Bowl.
I don't think it'll be this year.
Nah, I don't think it is either. But we're gonna get into that, I promise. But yeah, he's looking so good. Patrick Mahomes, if he's healthy, we know what kind of player he is. And then Isaiah Pacheco, the late round draft pick at running back, he's also a player. When you look at the Chiefs, you're like, oh man, they got rid of Tyreek Hill. Clyde got hurt early in the season. They shouldn't be where they are, and
yet guys step up.
They have had guys step up. MVS was, he hasn't been there all season, being like a huge playmaker, but he's there when you need him. Juju's really taken a step forward, kind of returning to that 2018 form we saw him with the Steelers. The Chiefs are still a damn good football team.
Yeah, I don't know if his stats showed from what I saw, but Kadarius Toney was running people over in that game.
Yeah, I hate the guy, but he played pretty well.
But this really brings the question, because this might be the team I'm most curious about going into the next season, is Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Way too early predictions. Where do you see them finishing in the AFC next season?
Probably 4th again. Off the top of my head, I'd say 4th again. I think they'd win their division. Looking at the situation in Tennessee, if Derrick Henry stays healthy, you can never count out the Titans. But what's their quarterback situation? Is Tannehill going to be back? Is he going to retire? Malik Willis hasn't looked great as far as NFL quarterbacks go. They don't really have receivers. Like, their best receiver is Robert Woods, and he's like 57. It's not like they have huge playmakers on the offense. Their defense is good enough to get by, but not great. Looking at Indy, I mean,
If they can pick up a quarterback, I think they could be a contender.
yeah, I mean, Indy's good, but every year it's that quarterback carousel where it's like, okay, we have Matt Ryan, he's not cutting it. Carson Wentz didn't cut it. Phillip Rivers, he was good. He led them to the playoffs when he was there, but he was old. He retired. So I mean, like, what is Indy gonna do at quarterback? That I'm not gonna take a team that doesn't have a quarterback, and then Houston's not there yet. I think 3 years they'll have some really good playmakers if they draft a good guy in this draft and work out with their coach, whoever they might hire. But yeah, I see Jacksonville, winning the AFC South again, especially with the Doug Peterson, another Coach of the Year candidate. We've mentioned 2 already. He's a third one. In my eyes, he should probably win it.
Oh yeah, I mean getting them to.
There's no reason Jacksonville should be in the divisional round. Same thing with the Giants. Like Doug Peterson and Brian Daboll should probably be the top 2. Nick Sirianni being in there as well. But yeah, Jacksonville, off the top of my head, probably 4th seed, winning something like 10 games, 10, 11 games.
I could definitely see it. Yeah.
And then last matchup, one that I expected to be a high-scoring shootout, close game, ended up being the second biggest deficit of the weekend.
Yeah.
The Bengals versus the Bills, 27-10. What happened?
See, for me, this might have been the most sound performance I've seen out of a football team so far this season from the Bengals. It looked like they were playing perfect football out there.
Yeah, they played really well. I mean, they got off to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter, and if you go down 14 points to Joe Burrow, you're not coming back.
And this really, because I think what was in question for these Bengals, for a lot of people, was can their defense hold up? And I think if they can hold Josh Allen and the Bills to 10 points, they have a shot at beating everyone.
Yeah, and it's not like it was like, this perfect weather in a dome type game. It was a snowy, very cold game, which automatically off the top of your mind, you're like, oh, that favors Buffalo because they play in this all the time. This is what they're used to. Of course, Cincinnati has its bad weather in Ohio and snow and stuff. But Buffalo, this should be their type of game with what they do, with the way Josh Allen can run and their 1-2 punch of Devin Singletary and James Cook. Like, this should be a game that Buffalo can handle. And then they got absolutely nothing done on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Josh Allen he didn't look like himself out there.
No. And he's known, like, over the past 3 seasons, he's known for being, like, the playoff guy. Like, if you want one quarterback in the playoffs, it's Josh Allen. It was his defense who let him down, or his run game that let him down. It was never Josh Allen. But this game, he threw for 265, but he had no touchdowns. He had a pick. His QBR was 57.3. That's not something you want out of a guy who you look at as a top 2, top 3 quarterback in the league.
Yeah. Definitely think it kind of humbles him, brings him down a notch, brings him back to earth. Along with Bills fans, they are beatable.
You hate to see it for that DeMar situation, too.
Yeah, that, they had the whole Cinderella story thing going. But, I mean, it really says, a lot for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, you did not expect their defense to come out and play like this. That's for sure.
No, especially going into the next game, I think it brings a lot of confidence to the team. So it got a big morale boost, especially on the defensive side of the ball with that kind of performance. If they do it again, I think they win handedly.
Yeah, I mean, if their defense can play like that, because they are, like, everybody knows their offense is going to play well. Like, that's not a question. They know Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, the list goes on. You know that offense is going to come to play. It's whether the defense can hold the other team or not. If they can play like that against a Buffalo Bills offense, there's no stopping the Cincinnati Bengals team. I was really impressed with what the Bengals did. Burrow throws for 242 and 2 touchdowns. Had a pretty high completion percentage. Didn't look, he looked how you want your playoff quarterback to look. Joe Mixon added 105 and a touchdown on the ground, so he had a great day as well. I mean, all around, just great performance by the Bengals. And they're hot, man. I mean,
oh yeah,
they
can't get much hotter.
They haven't lost in a long time. It has been a very long time since the Cincinnati Bengals have lost a football game. So, I mean, I'm going to look back at it now, actually, to tell you when the last time they lost a football game was. It was against the Cleveland Browns, and they were 4-4 at the time of the loss. They went 12-4 in the regular season and have played 2 weeks in a row in the playoffs. So if that gives you any inclination as to how hot the Bengals are, yeah.
That hot.
That hot. But, so we're moving on to this conference championship weekend. We have 3 games left of football. Kind of heartbreaking. I wish we had more. I'm going to miss it.
Yeah.
But, we're moving on to the conference championships. Let's look at these games, give our predictions on who's going to make it to play in Arizona for the Super Bowl. It's been a long road here, but here we are. San Francisco 49ers going to Philly to take on the Eagles to decide who wins in the NFC. Who do you have?
I'm gonna stick with my my pick from preseason, beginning of postseason, in the 49ers. Now, when we get to the betting segment, you might hear something different, but that's because if I pick 1-1, really can't lose unless. Well, I'll get to that later.
Okay.
There's a way I can, but it's really specific.
What do you think gives San Fran the edge over Philly?
I don't think Philly has seen a defense quite like this. A defense that can get after the quarterback, but at the same time really blanket the field, cover these receivers. So if the 49ers can keep that pressure on them for most of the game, I think they can edge this one out, but it's going to take a big offensive performance from Mr. Brock Purdy.
Yeah, definitely. So last week, the only game we differed on was the Cincinnati-Buffalo game. So I went 4-0 on the weekend. You went 3-1. We're already picking different here.
This is both of our guys. This is our last teams left.
Yeah, before the year, I had the Eagles making the Super Bowl. When we started the postseason, I had the Eagles making the Super Bowl. So just like you, I'm not going to differ from my pick. It's pretty cool to see our two teams come down this far. I feel like it shows we had some knowledge as to what was going to go on this season. Makes us sound smart, that's for sure.
Both of our AFC teams are
We don't have no.
But,
Shh.
But we
NFC.
We're doing
NFC.
better than
our
guests that have
Rebo
predicted,
Hustle or Mr. Lottober.
because
All
their
of their
teams
teams
are
are
out.
gone. Yeah, all their teams are gone. We at least have one guy left in the fight for now. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles, and the reason being is what we saw last week. So the Eagles take on the Giants, who obviously, in my opinion, the Cowboys are a better team than the Giants. I think if the Cowboys versus the Giants happened, Cowboys win. But we didn't see that game. We saw Eagles versus Giants, and we saw Niners versus Cowboys. Eagles beat the Giants by 31 points. Niners beat the Cowboys by 7. Simple math, you're like, okay, Eagles are going to score. Of course, the San Fran defense is way better than the Giants defense. But in my opinion, the best defense the Niners have seen all year was that Dallas defense. And they played very well. You can't deny that even though the Dallas Cowboys didn't win that game, that their defense didn't look good, because they did. And for me, the Eagles defense is kind of on par with Dallas. I think San Fran's, a tier higher than both of those guys. But
I kind of so I agree with that. I think they're on par. I do think the Eagles secondary is a little bit better than the Cowboys secondary.
yeah,
However, the Cowboys front, I'd say they're on par with the Eagles, honestly.
yeah.
their
that's what I'm saying.
linebackers, their linebacking core, I'd probably give them the edge over, but their D-line,
I'd give the Cowboys the edge in the linebackers for sure.
but the
But
D-line I'd have to give to the
D-line,
Eagles.
secondary Eagles have. That's what I'm saying, is like the Eagles defense is just as good, if not better, than the Cowboys defense. And the Niners only put up 19 points. In my opinion, if you put up 19 points in the Eagles, you lose the game.
Yeah.
I don't think the Eagles score less than 19. Even against the Niners, I think they're going to give you 20 to 24 if they play a typical Eagles game. And they could even exceed that, because the Niners defense hasn't seen an offense like this Eagles offense. They are good on every single level. You have two, probably, in my opinion, top 30 receivers in the league, one who's top 10 in A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith is no slouch. And then you've got Miles Sanders, who's having the best year of his career. You've got Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, who had great games against the Giants. And then not even to talk about the quarterback and Jalen Hurts, who's an MVP finalist because of what he can do from the pocket, but also what he adds on the ground. So this Niners defense is going to face their toughest bout yet, as is the Eagles. But in my opinion, the Eagles just have the edge when you look at, if you break down every section of a team. I think the Eagles have more talent. I wouldn't say they're better coached. I think the coaches have been going back and forth as far as like how good the coaches are. Shanahan and Sirianni are both very, very good at what they do. But for me, I think the Eagles just take the cake as far as the offense being able to consistently score points. So give me Philly to beat San Fran. If I had to give you a score, I'd say something along the lines of like 26-20.
26-20.
Somewhere up in there.
Yeah, I'd probably go 24-20.
San Fran?
San Fran. 24-21 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be this big blowout game. I could definitely see it being more than a field goal, but it wouldn't surprise me if it comes down to a last drive type of game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think the energy is going to be great. So that's going to be the 2:00 game on Sunday. And then the AFC Championship is going to take the night spot where we're seeing number 3 Cincinnati going to Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Chiefs. A game we have seen many a time over the past couple of years. Joe Burrow's never lost in Kansas City. Joe Burrow's never lost to Kansas City. So does that change this Sunday?
No.
That was emphatic. I loved it. What's your predictions on this game? What's going to go down?
So we've seen Joe Burrow and the Bengals beat a fully healthy, fully functional machine of a team that was the Chiefs last season. And this season, they're not on par with what they were a season ago. Like you said, they lost Tyreek Hill, and these other guys are stepping up, but that's a big loss, especially in the playoffs. They still have Kelsey, big threat, but the key is the Mahomes injury. He's not going to be 100% out there. He might not even stay in the full game, especially if it gets re-aggravated or re-injured. So we might see Henny come in. And I mean, he did good last game.
He led a 98-yard touchdown drive. He did. He did.
How long has it been since you've seen Chad Henne play?
Well, he played in the 2020 playoffs when they took on the Browns. After Mahomes got hit on a concussion or whatever, and then it was remember that 4th and 3 play where Henne took off for a scramble, and that's how they won the game. I remember that.
When's the last time you saw
Henne play meaningful minutes?
Start a game?
Probably never. I don't know if I've ever seen it with my own 2 eyes.
Maybe when he was on the Dolphins.
Again, never seen it with my own 2 eyes.
But yeah, I just think, especially coming off this win against Buffalo, the Bengals are kind of untouchable for this next game.
Yeah,
not saying they're untouchable for the remainder of the playoffs. I think regardless of who they play out of the NFC, it's going to be a tough game
for sure. I mean, this is probably the most excited I've been about a championship weekend in a long time.
Yeah,
and we don't even. It's not like we have a team we don't the Saints aren't playing.
Well, yeah,
so we don't have a.
I like 3 of the 4 teams in there.
Yeah, I do too. And the 4th team we agree is the Chiefs. But I'm really excited to watch this football because I think it's going to be 2 very good games. The Bengals-Chiefs game, I think, is going to be another nail-biter. Every time that they play, the game finishes within 3 points. Literally every time they play, the Bengals win by 3. So, as you're going to see in just a little bit, that's going to play into how I feel about betting for this game.
Streak's going to be broken.
Possibly. But I like the Bengals, man. I think they play tough. They play with, a certain swagger on the field. That you saw that video of Joe Burrow throwing pregame warm-ups, and he did a 360, and it was the coolest looking thing you've ever seen in your life in those all-white uniforms. Eli Apple is popping off on Twitter right now.
Because he actually had a good game.
Yeah, I hate the guy. Legit, if there was any NFL player where I was he shouldn't be in the league, it's Eli Apple. But he had a good game, and now he's popping off on Twitter on everybody.
One of my favorite things was the highlight tape that was made for him by a lovely citizen of New Orleans. I believe it was right after or leading up to the Super Bowl last season, and it was by far, not an actual highlight tape.
No, it was a low light tape to say the least. It was basically every time he got burnt. It was like a 6-minute video of Eli Apple blowing coverage.
And he's not that old.
No, I mean he's been in the league for what, like 6-7 years. But yeah, I'm taking the Bengals this Sunday. I think they've just got, when it comes down to it, kind of what I said with the Eagles and Niners. If you break down every piece of the team, I like the Bengals more head to head. They've proven it too, that they are able to beat the Chiefs. And the Chiefs may have finished with a better record than last year. Chiefs may be the number 1 seed right now. But something about them just doesn't convince me. I've brought up many a time, people are probably tired of me saying it, but they almost lost to the Texans. The Texans took them to overtime. They almost lost to the Broncos late in the season, which we know what happened with the Broncos. I mean, the Jags held it within 7. This Chiefs team has not convinced me of anything. But week after week, I watch the Bengals and I'm like, yeah, this is a team right here. This is a team that deserves to go all the way, and they beat the Bills by 17. If the Bengals keep it close against the Bills and pull it out on a last-second field goal, maybe I feel different about this game. But for me, all signs point to the Bengals winning this one. So I'll take Cincinnati versus Philly in the Super Bowl on February 12th. That being said,
Yeah, I'll follow that up with Cincinnati, San Fran.
and I think no matter what, that's a great game. I think no matter what matchup happens between any 4 of these teams, it's going to be a good game. To be honest, the one I'd least like to see is Kansas City Philly, because that's 2 number 1 seeds, and that's just boring.
Oh, yeah, that's not as fun.
It very well could happen, but for me, I'm liking Cincinnati. I know you like Cincinnati as well, and then we differ in the NFC Championship, but either way, I'm happy. I think it's going to be 2 really good games on Sunday and then a really good Super Bowl. So quickly, let's go ahead and look at the NFL awards. They released those finalists. I believe it was early this morning. So we'll go ahead and look who's the finalists for each award, and then we'll give our prediction on who's going to win it.
Okay, cool.
MVP, we've got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Jefferson.
Oh, wow, he finally got up.
He's not going to win. He's going to finish 5th out of the 5 guys. But the fact that he's even getting mentioned in that breath in 2023 with a wide receiver getting a shot to win an MVP, that's just dope to see, especially because he's a local guy from Destrehan, went to LSU, 3-star coming out of high school. Love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a few games that were kind of duds. I think if he doesn't have those, there's talk that, he could be up there.
Yeah, I mean, if he would have had, maybe 2 more average games, not even like really great games, 2 more average games, he probably would have broke the record for most receiving yards in the season.
He finished out the season kind of on a low note.
Yeah.
Of what this season consisted for him. But that's a tough list right there. I don't think it'll be Hurts.
Nah, he missed a few games. Yeah. It sucks for him. I think he would have won it had he played every game, but missed like 3 games that kind of took him out.
And then, the other 3, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes. They've had pretty similar seasons. It's almost like a toss-up, but for me, it might be a homer pick, but I'm going to go with Joe Shiesty.
I would love Joe Shiesty to win it. I think that would be such a great story. But for me, I think Mahomes is going to win it. It's not like I want him to win it, but he's going to. I mean, he led the league in yards, led the league in touchdowns, number 1 seed in the AFC. It just makes sense. And typically I'm pretty sure this is a regular season award. They don't base it off the playoffs. So regular season-wise, Mahomes had the best year. They're going to give it to him. So Pat Mahomes for MVP is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Defensive Player of the Year, we're looking at Micah Parsons, Chris Jones, and Nick Bosa. For me, this one's pretty simple. I'm going Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that one too. I mean, that defense. I mean, he runs the defense.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around it, and it's a successful defense because he's successful.
Yeah, and if you think about the way they do offense, it's like the best quarterback on the best team is Patrick Mahomes. He wins the MVP. If you think about it the same way defensively, Nick Bosa is the best defensive player on the best defense in the league. Nick Bosa. Makes sense. Offensive Player of the Year, we're looking at Patrick Mahomes again, Justin Jefferson again, Jalen Hurts again, and then Tyreek Hill is the last guy on that list. For me, I think this is Justin Jefferson here. it sucks that Jalen Hurts won't get an award for the season he had because he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, if not my favorite. But Justin Jefferson had a fantastic year on a team that nobody expected to go as well as they did. And like I said, he almost broke the record for most yards. So give me Jay Jettis to win Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, for me, like we said earlier when we did these picks, I gave MVP to Hurts, and then I gave Offensive Player of the Year to Josh Allen, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to switch it around and say Hurts for Offensive Player of the Year, but with him missing those key games, I'm going to have to agree with you. And I think that Jefferson's going to be receiving that Offensive Player of the Year award.
If you won the Offensive Rookie of the Year in his third year, that'd be dope. But
it's not even fair.
Speaking about Offensive Rookie of the Year, we've got Brock Purdy, KW3, Kenneth Walker, and Garrett Wilson for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
See, it's tough for me because, Brock Purdy, if he had played the full length of the season, I'd say undoubtedly, not even close.
Yeah.
But because he didn't, make it in there till the very end, I'm gonna stick with Ken Walker, who had a crazy season.
He did have a very good year, especially for a rookie coming into a situation where he wasn't guaranteed to start. He had a great year. Didn't even play until a certain part in the season. I don't remember exactly how far in, but Rashad Penny ended up tearing his Achilles or his ACL, and then Kenneth Walker comes in and has a great year as a rookie. I agree with you on the Brock Purdy situation. If he played all year and he played like this, there's no doubt in my mind he wins Rookie of the Year. But the question is 7 to 8 games enough to go ahead and give him that award? I am not sure. So I'm gonna. You know what? I just want to be different. Give me Garrett Wilson to win the award.
That's fair.
I think what he did with no quarterbacks, like no good quarterbacks, I should say. Like Mike White's not a good NFL quarterback. He's magic, but he's not a good NFL quarterback. Zach Wilson stinks. Joe Flacco's old. Like Garrett Wilson turned nothing into something, and he had a great year. I think Chris Olave should have been in the conversation. I think it's kind of disrespectful that he's not in there, but it is what it is. I'll take his college teammate, Garrett Wilson.
I want to real quickly apologize to all the viewers out there. I did not have the chat pulled up.
What a joke.
So we missed a few good comments.
It's okay. We'll go back to him. Let's hear
him. My dad and Soundman and Dustin were having a little conversation. Soundman said, even after the ejection, ? Which I'm not sure who got ejected.
Now I feel dumb. Soundman, please drop in the chat who you are talking about.
Soundman, this one doesn't even need context. He just said, "You sure he's not 46?"
Yeah. Shout out Robert Woods. Jenny Age.
That's who it was. Bosa. Bosa got ejected.
Joey
Bosa got
Joey Bosa
warning.
got ejected.
He was ejected or just got a warning?
Well, no, because the ref threw the flag on him after he said something, and then he was just like, he went on the sideline and threw his helmet down, and then Brandon Staley went to hand him his helmet, and he threw it back down, and he was like, all right.
Yeah, I remember he had a little tantrum there, but yeah, it was Joey Bosa from the Chargers. We were talking about Nick Bosa.
From the Niners. Any more spicy comments out there?
Any day now.
All right. Anyway, we'll move on to Defensive Rookie of the Year. This one's pretty easy for me as well. Tariq Woolen, Aiden Hutchinson, and Sauce Gardner are the top 3. Sauce is winning.
I mean, yeah, they all had good seasons.
He's so good.
But Sauce.
For a rookie, man, he came in and he's like, he shuts people down. If you look at the metrics against top wide receivers, they weren't doing anything on him. Next up, Comeback Player of the Year. This one's a big toss-up for me. It could go any way. In Saquon, CMC, and Geno Smith, I see the route for all 3 guys to win it. I'm going to make you pick first. That way I can listen to what you say, and then I'll base it off of that.
Okay, so if I'm looking at these 3 players, I don't think CMC is going to get it. I don't think his year was as good as either the other two's.
He had a really good year. It's just kind of like he got traded halfway through the season, so he didn't have a full year to really prove what he's worth.
Yeah, he had a lot going on. Saquon looked like he was back for blood.
And he's a free agent too, man. He could go anywhere.
However, I'm going to give it to Geno because he was, the biggest surprise out of the three, really.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because we've seen CMC be the best running back in the league. We've seen Saquon be absolutely outstanding, but we've never seen Geno Smith be a really good quarterback, and he was. He did enough to where the Seahawks are probably going to sign him to a long-term deal. So good for Geno. Personally, though, I'm going to go Saquon. I think I picked him when we did our mid-season evaluation type things, and I'm going to stick with him. I think he's kind of the definition. Like, Geno Smith makes sense because he was never, he was never this good, and now he is. But for me, comeback player of the year is a guy you saw be really good, either got injured or, had some sort of issue, and now he's back, and that's what Saquon is to me. He's been battling injuries his entire career, similar to CMC, but Saquon had a fantastic year this year and a very big reason why the Giants made it as far as they did. So I'll take Saquon to win comeback player of the year.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then finally, we get to coach of the year. Three guys we've already mentioned in Nick Sirianni, Doug Peterson, and Brian Daboll, plus Kyle Shanahan and Sean McDermott are also thrown in there. For me, it really comes down to the two-man race of Brian Daboll and Doug Peterson, not because they had the best record like the Niners and the Eagles did, but because of what they did to a franchise that looked like they had nowhere to go.
Yeah, they made their team a much better team. A team with a chance to win.
Yeah, and for me, the guy who I think deserves it the most, and it's who I'm going to pick, I don't know if he'll actually win it, but I already mentioned it, Doug Peterson.
Damn you.
Well, you can pick the same guys. It doesn't hurt anybody. But, they literally had the number one pick 2 years in a row. Go Trevor Lawrence and Trayvon Walker. They start off the season, kind of good. They hit the middle of the pack, and they just look terrible. And then something clicks where the Jaguars make this run at the end of the season and ended up winning their division. And that has to come down to coaching. After a year with Urban Meyer, where it was just a crap show from the beginning, Doug Peterson comes in there and, makes a culture that people want to be a part of. So the Jags going from, I believe it was 3-14, or 3-13-1, something like that, to 9-8, winning their division and making the divisional round of the playoffs. To me, that is a testament to the coach. So Doug Peterson should win it.
Yeah, if you didn't take Doug Peterson, I was going to.
You can still take him. Nobody's going to be mad at you.
No, I'm not.
All right. Jeez.
I'm going to go with the coach who went through the most adversity.
That's a good word.
Big word of the day. He went through the most adversity from the beginning of the season to the end of the regular season. Went through three quarterbacks. Started off with a young quarterback everybody thought was going to be great. And not that he wasn't. He just got injured, didn't have a chance. Then fall back onto the veteran guy. He did good. Then he got injured too. As a coach, what do? You
turn to your third guy, I guess.
You draft Brock Purdy.
All right.
I'm going to go with Kyle Shanahan. Like I said, he was expected to be where he is now. Just he wasn't expected to take a team that took this route and bring them all the way to this point.
Yeah. I agree. I get what you're saying. I don't think he deserves Coach of the Year just because of, how good his team is other than quarterback. They have an Assistant Coach of the Year award, and D'Amico Ryans is up for that, and he's probably going to win it as the DC for San Fran because of how good that unit was. But, I get what you're saying. I agree that for a team losing not only its starting quarterback but its backup quarterback and still be this good, looking to make the Super Bowl, the coach is very good. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan's one of the best 5 coaches in the league. But I think for me, it's more the underdog story. I like Doug Peterson. But I respect your pick of Kyle Shanahan, even if it's wrong. Moving on from the NFL, we're going to talk a little bit of basketball.
You're the most passive-aggressive piece.
I am. I'm me. What can I say? Moving out of the NFL, we're going to talk about a little bit of basketball before we get onto our bets. I just wanted to mention the Pelicans for a second. If you're living in Louisiana, you know it's cold outside. It's been getting cold for a while. And it's probably because of the Pelicans, because they are making the weather cold. They are 2-8 out of their last 10. They've lost 5 in a row. They do not look good right now. And I'm blaming it on Reese.
I'll throw it back real quick. Take a quick pause for this Pelicans talk. Dustin's back in the chat.
Oh, welcome back.
Nice to see you again.
Love you, Dustin.
He said if Doug Peterson does not win, it is a crime.
Fact.
They had the first overall pick last year. And now look at them.
Fact. See, Dustin's on my side.
I mean, I was too.
No, you weren't. You picked Kyle Shanahan.
I just needed to pick a different guy to be different.
Nah.
Because I'm built different.
Well, you are. You were definitely built different, some would say. But thank you for reinforcing my point, Dustin. I appreciate you. But yeah, back on the Pelicans. Very cold. Lost 5 in a row. 2-8 out of the last 10. Not looking very good, but the dawn is always darkest before the day.
What he said. I'll have what he's having.
Brandon Ingram is back on the floor starting tonight as the New Orleans Pelicans take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Welcome back, B.I. So glad to have you.
Yeah.
He hasn't played since November.
Very much missed.
Very much missed. We are a different team without that man. We also got some bad news today where they said Zion's going to be out for at least another 2 weeks. He'll get reevaluated then and then start his, if he's looking like he's ready to go, he'll start his reconditioning. So in my mind, he'll be out probably another 3 to 4 weeks.
Let him rest.
Let him rest. Because we're still, we're still 4 seed. We are only 3 games out of the play-in, but we're still 4 seed as of right now.
Still got a lot of basketball left to be played.
Definitely. We've got plenty of time. So I would rather us be a 5 to 6 seed and be completely healthy in the playoffs than be a 3 to 4 seed and risk guys getting injured. That's how I feel about it. So if you let Zion rest and get his hammies ready to go, let Brandon Ingram play, let CJ McCollum play, rally around Brando, I feel good about this Pell squad. They are taking on the T-Wolves tonight, where they are 3-point favorites due to Brandon Ingram coming back. They are playing on a back-to-back tonight, as they lost by 1 point to the Nuggets last night. Again, blaming it on Reese. He was at the game. Reese, get it together, man.
Stop going.
Stop going to games. That being said, we will be at a game in a couple weeks.
OTD will take on the Blender.
OTD at the Blender, featuring
whenever.
February 5th against the Kings. It's going to be, your OTD boys, Mustang and Redfish, taking on the Blender with
Mr.
Rebo Hustle
Lottober.
and Mr. Lottober in tow. So 4/5 of the organ donors will be in the Blender. Unfortunately, Father Forsyth could not make it with us because he has to work.
Yeah.
Duty calls, I guess.
Still hasn't made his appearance on here yet. We'll have to...
I talked to him yesterday, and he said he really wants to come on here, but, he always works.
We'll
So I don't know.
Just bully him into it.
Bully him into it. Be like, I don't care. Take off of work. Like, make it happen.
While we're on the subject of, the OTD guests, somebody's 4-0.
Somebody is 4-0, and he goes by the Gremlin, Gage Gill.
Another first-round...
Another first-round knockout.
technical knockout. Ref stopped the fight, as he should have.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and watched it on Facebook after it was done, and I think if Gage got like 1 or 2 more knees in there, the guy was gonna rigor mortis in the middle of the ring.
The tortoise.
Sure. But yeah, shout out to Gage. Another win, 4-0 professionally. He is not slowing down anytime soon. If you didn't watch our last episode with him, go ahead and watch it. But yeah, shout out to Gage, man. He is killing it right now. Love to see local talent doing this, especially when he's friend of the show, friend of the program,
Friend of the Mustang.
friend of the Mustang, indeed.
Yeah, it looks like he I didn't really see him take too much damage, so might be looking at another, month and a half, 2 months rest.
Yeah.
And then he'll book another fight.
Once we find out when that next fight is, we'll definitely let the people know, of course, and we'll see if Gage wants to get back on here and tell you all about this past fight and what he's looking forward to in the future. So the last thing we're going to end out here, something we do every episode, you should be used to it by now, B&B's Bets of the Week. If you listen to our last episode, you know we did another episode of our 3-leg locks. So we did it before the playoffs. They hit. We did it last week. Mustangs hit, mine did not. And then we did it this past week again, and guess what? They all 3 hit. What are we laughing at?
I don't know what the hell Soundman's talking about.
Do you ever?
But he said he put a hurtin' on Milky Chance or whatever that dude's name was.
No. What a name. All right. New name of a segment on the podcast. I don't know what the segment's going to be about.
Yeah, write that down.
All right, write it down. All right, but yeah, we did our 3-leg locks last week. They both hit, so congratulations to us. We are good bettors. It was a great weekend for me in the FanDuel account. I put it in our OTD group chat. I had a nice little weekend. What can I say?
You told me to make a bet the other day.
Yeah, I was hoping that wouldn't come up. It hits every night.
It hits every night, but when I bet it.
It has hit so many. I have hit that bet 4 times. And I bet it again tonight because I always bet it. De'Aaron, it's always on the Kings. I always bet De'Aaron Fox to score 20 and Sabonis to score 15, with Sabonis to get 6 assists and De'Aaron to get 4 assists. It's above their averages, and it always hits because Sabonis is a triple-double machine this year. De'Aaron is the best fourth-quarter player and usually gets about 5 assists. So it usually hits. It didn't this time, so I apologize.
No, neither. So Sabonis got all of his assists and his rebounds. Fox got his assists. They did not get their points.
They didn't need to because they were playing a Grizzlies team that was destroyed, and they scored 133. The Kings scored 133 points with Sabonis and Fox. Neither one scored 20. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm sorry. But, I said it, too. I said if there's any team that this bet won't hit against, it'll be the Grizzlies. Which was crazy because, it
wasn't the reason I
Ja
thought
and
it wasn't
Steven Adams
hit.
were out.
Yeah.
So you were like, oh, the people who are going to be covering these guys are out. They're going to be fine. Nope. It's because Harrison Barnes had the greatest game of his career. 5 for 6 from 3 and 9 for 11 from the field or something. But anywho, Soundman's parlay did not hit last week. He had Bengals in the over. Bengals did end up hitting that spread, but the over did not hit because they didn't need to.
Yeah, which was probably the most shocking of all of the over-unders.
It probably so. I would venture to say. So we're going to keep the ball rolling, go with another 3-leg parlay, and that'll do it for this Off the Dome episode tonight after we hit this. So 3-leg parlay, Byron, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna stick to the basics here. I see what you threw in. And I'm gonna stick to a little bit simpler. I'm gonna go with the Bengals spread at -1. So,
Basically to win the game.
win the game.
But you get better odds on a spread. It's -18 better or something.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take the over on that game, which is Bengals Chiefs. And over under set at 47.5. Taking the over. I think it'll be a shootout. And then moving on to the other side, I got Philly spread -2.5, which, if you recall, I told you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So, I'll either hit this bet or my pick will go to the Super Bowl. But on the very slight chance the Eagles win by 1, I'm going to be pissed.
Eagles win the okay. So score prediction for the Niners-Eagles game, I now have Eagles 28, Niners 26. That is my final score prediction. Eagles win by 2. They do not hit the spread, and the Niners lose.
You can go to hell.
Byron stinks.
You can go to hell.
No, I'd rather not.
So combine that to a parlay, you get plus 588.
That's a good parlay, man. That's some great odds for something that looks pretty good to hit to me. I really like the way that looks. I might put some money on yours. What can I say? But my parlay, less odds, and I threw a little couple wrenches in there. So first thing I picked was Eagles money line. I said Eagles are going to win the game. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, unlike this guy.
I'm spreading it out.
Bengals Chiefs game. I see the Bengals, scoring quite a bit. So I'm going to go Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns. For me, I think it's pretty obvious. If the Bengals are going to win this game, Joe Burrow is going to throw for 2 passing touchdowns. And then I went with an alternate spread. So the Bengals spread's at -1, like you said. However, I brought up the fact that the Bengals always win by 3. So what I did is I went with the alternate spread at -2.5 to fit that narrative, to keep the good luck rolling. I'll take the Bengals alternate spread at -2.5 with the Eagles money line and Burrow over on his 1.5 passing touchdowns, and that'll get you a parlay at +298. So the odds aren't as high as yours, of course, but I feel really good about it. I'll probably throw money on yours and throw money on mine just for fun.
I really like what Dustin's cooking up out here.
What'd you say, Dust?
He said, I feel like Kelsey anytime touchdown needs to be automatically put into any parlay this weekend.
That's probably fair.
Probably fair. Might do it. Might
I'd-
make 2 of the same and, have him in one and not in the other.
I had a parlay. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I had a parlay that had Kelsey 2+ touchdowns.
I do, and I thought
it was going to hit.
Thought
It
you
was
were about
for
to make bank.
$810. It was Kelsey 2+ touchdowns, ETN anytime, Christian Kirk anytime, and McKinnon anytime. McKinnon did not score. That jerk. I should have cashed out when I had the chance at
Yeah.
$68. I only put 10 in, so I would have made 58 profit. But little
never
old me,
cash out. Never take the cash out.
little old me thought it would be perfectly fine to stick it. But
Let it ride.
in the end, here we are, coming to the close of this Off the Dome Sports Podcast episode. Feel pretty good about what we said tonight.
Yeah,
Other than the fact that you literally disagreed with yourself. I don't get it.
I didn't disagree with myself. I just spread my thoughts out. Like
Put
I
your
said,
money where your mouth is.
be smart with your money.
One of us has a lot of money in their FanDuel account right now. The other one does
Listen
not.
to you.
I listen to me too, and here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Whether you're on newrockradio.us, we want to thank you for listening in to us. Remember to listen in at all times. Does not matter when. In case you were wondering, Soundboy went ahead and gave his salute that we always do from off camera. He didn't want to miss out tonight. So just know when I salute to you, he's saluting as well. Thank you for listening on New Rock Radio. Thank you for watching on Radio House Studios accounts. Don't forget, you can always come back and watch as if you missed the episode. So you can go back and watch our old episodes as well on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook on Radio House Studios platforms. And make sure to stay tuned to our social medias, Off the Dome Sports Podcast on Facebook and Off the _Dome Pod on Twitter for any news coming up about when our next episode might be. And something very spicy might be coming at the end of this week. So make sure to pay attention to our social medias. We'll let you know if something happens. Until then, stay tuned. See you next time.